I'm going to be explaining how you can use the compare and contrast technique in writing elaboration. If you look at the screen, you can see that I've already got my point and my evidence written down. They say, another reason we cannot trust self-driving cars to make roadways safer is because they are too unreliable. Source 2 says, with the technology being relatively new, many research experts feel that self-driving vehicles still have a long way to go to prove themselves. So I know that compare and contrast is when I compare what's being talked about in the evidence to something else as a way of proving my point. So if I look at the evidence, it says the technology. Now, obviously, that's referring to self-driving cars. So what I'm going to do is compare self-driving cars to something else that is also unreliable, because that's what I'm trying to prove they are, after all. So when I think about things that are unreliable, one thing that comes to mind is cell phone service. It goes in and out sometimes. So that's what I'm going to go with. So for my first sentence of elaboration, I'll just explain my comparison, or say what my comparison is. I'll write autonomous cars. Okay, so I'm going to say autonomous instead of self-driving, just to show the reader that I've read the sources and understand them. Like service on your cell phone. Okay, that's all I need to write. That's what I'm comparing. Autonomous cars and cell phone service. Now I need to explain the comparison. Okay, so I've compared autonomous cars and cell phone service, and now I've explained the comparison. Usually they work fine, but there's times when they don't. But I need to write a little bit more than that, because I need to use this compare and contrast as a way of convincing the reader of my point of view, which is that self-driving cars are unreliable and therefore can't be counted on to make roadways safer, which is my claim. So I'm going to explain the results of this lack of reliability. I think that'll be a good way to show them this is a bad thing. So here we go. Okay, so I just explained what happens when the self-driving car is unreliable, because I think that'll show the reader that we can't trust it because the results are going to be horrible. So I wrote, the difference is that the result of lost service on your cell phone just means that you'll have to wait until later to make a call or send a text, while when a self-driving car doesn't work, the result can be a terrible accident. Okay, so I've explained why I made the comparison. I've argued using that comparison. I think all this paragraph needs is just one sentence at the end to kind of wrap it all up. So to do that, I want to just tie it back to my main point that they're unreliable and my main claim. So I'm just going to say something like, we just cannot count on this technology with thing as oh. Okay, so I think that's a good way to end it. Just bringing it back to the safety, which is the main claim of my whole paper. And it might sound a little dramatic, but hey, I'm trying to argue and I don't mind being a little dramatic here to prove my point. So I'm going to go ahead and read the entire paragraph. It says, another reason we cannot trust self-driving cars to make roadways safer is because they are too unreliable. Source 2 says, with the technology being relatively new, many research experts feel that self-driving vehicles still have a long way to go to prove themselves. Autonomous cars are like service on your cell phone. Usually they work just fine, but there are times when you really need it that it just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. The difference is that the result of lost service on your cell phone just means that you'll have to wait until later to make a call or send a text, while when the self-driving car doesn't work, the result can be a terrible accident. We just cannot count on this technology with something as important as driving, which puts people's lives at risk. Okay, so hopefully you understood my example of how I use compare and contrast to show that self-driving cars were unreliable. Next, I'm going to scroll down and you're going to see the point and the evidence that you are going to work with so that you can write your own elaboration using the compare and contrast technique. Remember, once I scroll down, you're going to need to pause your screen so that you can write down what it says. So there it is. Go ahead and pause your screen now. I'll read it one time. One reason that we can trust self-driving cars to make roadways safer is because this technology is constantly improving. Source 1 says, the expectancy of the future is that vehicles that can self-drive will vastly improve the safety of the roadways across the nation and the world.